Hi, I am Dr. K. Sai Prasad Reddy. Welcome to the subject software testing. In today's session, we are going to discuss about integration testing, which we have already discussed in the previous session, just only the definition. And the second one is interview questions or frequently asked questions, multiple choice questions, and the ISTQB model questions on integration testing. Right? Yeah. Now, integration testing. What do you mean by the integration testing? So integrating all the components, after completion of integration, they will do testing. That is called integration testing. In integration testing, the modules or programs or elements or components will be integrated. So that is why this integration testing is also called as component integration testing. The components will be integrated. That is why this integration testing is also called as a component integration testing. Shortly it is called as CIT. This integration testing is also called as integration testing in a small scale or a small range because only the components are getting integrated. Right? That's why it is called as integration testing in a small scale or integration testing in a small range. Now, so about this integration testing and the different approaches in the integration testing have been covered in the previous session. Those who have not seen that session, just you can go and you can see that session. Now, we'll discuss about frequently asked questions or interview questions or multiple choice questions for this topic, integration testing. Now, see, how do you test a module for integration? One is Big Bang approach, period analysis, cause and effect diagram, scatter diagram. So as we have discussed in the previous session, in integration testing there are 4 approaches. One is a top-down approach, second one is a bottom-up approach, third one is a Big Bang, and fourth one is a hybrid approach. Here, which is the correct option? Right? Big Bang approach is the correct option because Big Bang approach is one of the approaches for integration testing. The next, what is integration testing? Testing that the interfaces work correctly, looking for faults in a larger components or subsystems, specifying which components to integrate in which order, another term for specifying for testing system integrity. Which option is correct one? See here, the testing that the interfaces work correctly is the correct option because in the integration testing, predominantly the software development team will test whether these interfaces are working properly or not, whether these interfaces are working correctly or not. So there is a major aim of integration testing. There is a major what you call the purpose of integration testing. Right? And the rest of the options are wrong. So why these rest of the options are wrong? Looking for faults in a larger components or subsystems. Obviously it is wrong. Specifying which components to integrate in which order, that will not be part of the integration testing. So all these components will be integrated according to the project module or project designs. So the last option, another term for specifying for testing system integrity. So system integrity is not the part of integration testing. System integrity is a part of the system integration testing that we will discuss in the future classes. So option A is the correct one. See, we have to read this question repeatedly so as to understand in better way, and then we have to go for the options. Next, which of the following approaches are used in integration testing? Functional only, incremental and iterative, both functional and structural, structural only. See, which of the following approaches are used in integration tests? See, the first is both functional and structural because in integration system, in integration testing, after integrating the components and to form a subsystem, then the functional testing as well as the structural testing will be covered in integration testing. Both will be covered. Functional means how this function is working. Structural means how this code is working, whether the code is having any errors or not. That is called structural, right? So option A is wrong, option C is wrong, because structural only, functional only, these are wrong, and obviously option B is also wrong, because incremental and iterative, these are the category of software development life cycles, right? Next, which of the following is the main purpose of the integration strategy for integration testing in the small? So read the question carefully. Which of the following is the main purpose of the integration strategy for integration testing in a small? That is integration testing. To ensure that all of these small modules are tested adequately, to ensure that the system interfaces to other systems and networks, to specify which modules to combine and when and how many at once, to ensure that the integration testing can be performed by a small team, to specify how the software should be divided into modules. Here he is asking which of the following statement is correct for integration strategy, not for integration testing. Integration strategy for integration testing. Now see here, the first, to ensure that all of the small modules are tested adequately. See, this is not the strategy of integration testing, because all the modules are tested adequately during the unit testing. This is not the integration strategy. And to ensure that the system interfaces to other systems and networks. This is not the integration strategy for integration testing in the small. This is the strategy for system integration, that is integration testing in a larger scale, that we will cover in the future sessions. And to ensure that the integration testing can be performed by a small team. So irrespective of the team size, we cannot ensure that integration testing should be performed with a small team or with big team and all. It depends upon the size of the project, right? This is not the integration strategy. And to specify how the software modules should be divided into, modules, because that is not the part of the integration strategy. So the rest of the thing is to specify which modules to combine, when and how many at once. So which modules has to be combined, which modules has to be integrated to which modules, like this. That is according to the project designs. Option C is correct one. And integration testing in the small, that means there are 4 options. Test the individual components that have been developed. Tests interactions between the modules or subsystems. Only uses components that form a part of the live system. Tests interfaces to the other systems. So guess the answer. Yeah, see here, the first, test interfaces to the other systems. See, interfaces to the other systems means it is system integration testing, not integration testing. It is a system integration testing. That is integration testing in a large scale, right? And the next, that tests the individual components that have been developed. This is a part of the unit testing. Individual components will be tested, individual programs will be tested, individual elements will be tested, individual programs will be tested during unit testing. This is not the part of the integration testing. And only uses components that form a part of the live system. No, because only components will not be used, right? Yeah, components will be integrated. Now, the tests interaction between the modules or subsystems, because that is the main purpose of integration testing, because how these modules or the subsystems will be interacted with each other by means of some interface. So we have to test that interface, whether the interface is working properly or not. If the interface is working properly between the modules or the subsystems, obviously that modules or the subsystem will also work properly, right? Next, which statement about stub is true? So look all these 5 statements and guess the answer. Yeah, see, stubs replace calling components for integration testing. Wrong, because these are the called functions, called components. Yeah, stubs are required in the Big Bang approach. No, stubs are not at all required in the Big Bang approach. That is only the advantage of Big Bang. Stubs or drivers are not required in Big Bang approach because all the components are integrated once. The next, stubs are always at the lowest component in the hierarchy. It's wrong. We cannot say the stubs are always at the lowest component in the hierarchy, because whenever that component is not available in the project within the layer, so then the stubs will be used in place of that unavailable component. And the stubs are always produced during integration testing in the small. It's not always. When it is required, then we will use the stubs. Otherwise, we will not use the stubs always. So using the stubs always is wrong. Whenever the stub is required, then only we will use that stub, because the stub is a dummy component, right? So when the stubs will be used, if any component is not readily available, or if any component is not completed testing, in place of that particular component we will add this stub, right? So the last, yeah, the stubs replace the called components for integration testing. This is a correct option. Next, which of the following is an example of component integration testing approaches? It's a simple question. There are 4 approaches: top-down approach, bottom-up approach, hybrid approach, and Big Bang approach. So option A is the correct one. Continuous integration, compatibility, and system integration. These are wrong, and the top-down approach is the correct one, right? Yeah. Integration testing in the small. Choose the correct option. Guess the option. Guess the correct option. Yeah, I think it is repeated. Yeah. It is repeated, right? This question is repeated. Sorry. The interactions between the modules and subsystems. Yeah. What is the difference between component testing and integration testing? Yeah, guess the correct option. Yes. See? Option A is wrong. What is the difference between component testing and integration testing? Component testing tests the interfaces and integration testing searches for defects. Wrong. Because component testing will not test the interfaces. Right? Yeah. Next is developers perform component testing and the test engineers perform integration testing. No. Both the component testing and integration testing will be performed by the software developers only, because these 2 levels are white box testing. And the testers perform the component testing and the user perform the integration testing. No. Users means client people. The client people will never perform the integration testing. Please keep it in mind. Client people or the users will never perform integration testing. Integration testing and the component testing will be always performed by the software development team. And a component testing searches for the errors. Obviously, integration testing tests the interfaces. Component testing means unit testing, or program testing, or structural testing, or element testing. So during this unit testing, what this developers will do? Developers will search for the errors. Are there any errors in the program? In integration testing, obviously, it will predominantly the software developers will test for the interfaces, whether the interface is working properly or not. Right? Yeah. So please subscribe my channel, and if you like my videos, share my videos to your friends and student groups, those who are looking for the job, those who are in job search in IT for IT industry, and also like my sessions, and please provide your components in the component box, so that I can I can come to know about your views, right? Thank you very much.